Hi friends, continue to the chapter stress control. You have to say the phrase in the present tense to convince your subconscious mind that the statement are true right now, even though they are not. If you say them in the future tense, for example, this will not be for much longer. Your subconscious cannot know when the messages is going to apply, which will confuse it, and so it will be disregarded. You have to start believing it right now. The frequent repetition of this exercise will create a strong new neutral path in your brain and will convince your subconscious mind of truth in the statements. The subconscious mind believes what it is told. Rather, like a child, it does not discriminate or judge the materials it is fed. And so, if you feed in positive statements, it will believe them, and that will have a powerful effect on your life. You will then discover that your external behavior begins to alter in a way that more truly demonstrate what you are and what you want. Once you start to alter your inner conditioning, many of these things will take care of themselves. When your inner attitude changes, a lot of things will just fall away, or you will simply lose interest in the things that we are not really necessary. For example, you may suddenly realize that you have stopped thinking you have to agree with everyone, and you may find yourself saying things like, actually, I don't agree with it. I see it differently. When previously you would not have wanted to upset your friends by disagreeing with them, but would secretly be angry with yourself for not expressing your true feelings, thereby creating internal stress for yourself. You may suddenly stop being ashamed of your rather betrayed old car. You may find yourself thinking that is actually does not matter if you don't have the last BMW or whatever the brand you imagine you should have in your mind. As you know, you are respected for who you are by people who really count and not for what you have. You may realize the car in your reflection of your blank bank balances, not your essential self, and that a funky old car is actually more individual, anyways. What a loss of stress you can release. You may find that you don't have the same interest in reading gossip columns in the press or walking in a road or a television program, and this will give you more time. You may discover the certain task under took before sudden seems uneasy, so that you find a way to minimize them or to delegate them or simply eliminate them from a schedule. It is amazing how you can change things once you have made up your minds and informed it of the fact, preserves, and how well it works. Another way to work with your agenda is to look at all those areas of your life at this moment that you wish you have more control. Write them down as they come to you, no matter if they seem silly or unrealistic. Just put them down on a paper, in a list, in a circle in a pattern inside the balloon. Whatever feels right, it does not know how you do it. Only then you do it. Now look at each of these areas individually and ask yourself, where is the should in this? Am I caught up in someone else? Should or even in my own ideas of how I should behave or how I should look? Shoulds and oughts are though which simply someone else control and make us feel heavy, burdened and weighted down. If the answer is yes, I am caught up in something kind of should, replace I should with I do not want and see how the situation changes. Then, after the I don't want, say to yourself, but I want and finish the sentences. You may feel uncomfortable with the notions of I want, but just go along with it for a while to get the flavor of what could be or what is the possibility of your life could be if you were to give yourself what you really want rather than keeping on doing what you think you should do. Even if this appears unrealistic, given all the usual constraints of ordinary life, just go with it for a while. This will give you the sense of how you might make some adjustments that could see you less stressed, less disturbed, more in control of your agenda. Sometimes it is a question of just looking a little more deeply into the problems and finding that there is a way of doing what you want, which maintains, which also manages to take care of the shoulds in a creative way. The above exercises can reveal very important things about what is dictating your agenda. Here are some examples to help with these exercises. You might have been saying to yourself and others, I should stay in rather boring jobs because it pays well. But deep down, you know that you feel angry and bitter at how much time you are wasting doing a job that does not really inspire you. So that you then say, I don't want to go on with this job. Next, you add, but I want, and it may be, but I want to work part time so that I can build up my graphic portfolio to help me get work I really enjoy and which uses more of my talents. Then result to what you have said and you want and take it seriously. In this example, you could then decide that you will manage the work part time and live on a reduced income for a while so that you can repeat greater rewards later on. This way, you have been honest with yourself about what you really want. The next step is working out how to make them happy. This may be the you needed to accept having less money in the short term for gain of doing what having less money in the short terms for gain of doing what make us you happy and puts you more in the control. At least you would now be making a conscious choice that respects and honors your true feelings about your life. Overcoming the feelings of obligations. Perhaps you are caught up in the thoughts, I should help my friends move house, but you recognize that you feel reticence about the time you would have to spend on this when you are already feeling overloaded with all the things you need to get done in your own life. You may recognize that this is a recurring pattern, always trying to help others at your own expenses. So then you eliminate the should and apply the freaking technique. I do not want to help with the move. After this, you consider that what you do want. It could be, but I want to be a good friend. It is important for me to be kind and supportive. Having though about this truth, you could tell your friend honestly that you do not have time to help with his house move, but you want to take him out to dinner on this evening of the move to relieve that stress. This means you can still achieve the desire of being helpful and supportive, but in your own ways, in the way what does not compromises you. Determining your emotions. You may be saying to yourself, I should clean my home. Then you subtitle should with I do not want. So you are saying, I do not want to clean my home. Next you added, but I want. You may say, but I want to clean house. In that cases, you have two choices: clean the house yourself or find someone else to clean it. If you then decide that you cannot afford to pay anyone to do the cleaning, a creative solutions to your dilemma would be to the focus on the result you want, a clean environment, and so you could then decide that you want to cleaning because you want a clean house. In the other words, cleaning would give you the result you want. When you change that I should into I want, it has a different energy to it. It feels lighter and freer. However, you might have said, I don't want to clean the house, but I want to work on the book I am writing. Go to the cinema, meet a friend for a drink, paint the bedroom. If one of those I want was judged by one, you to be better use of your time. That would take you nearer to one of your life's goal. Then you could give up the I should and make an adult decision to spend your time in the most productive way for you, thereby realizing yourself from guilt and stress. In the other word, taking control of your agenda means becoming more conscious, more aware of taking responsibility for your decision and believing in your right to do so. Realizing the something you thought was a should part of your agenda is actually something you want to do will make a huge difference to your stress level. When you are doing what you want to do, you eliminate the tension, the resentment, the lack of commitment, and the potential damage to your health. You stop feeling like the underdog or the victim of the things outside your control, sometimes just affirming to yourself that you want to do certain things that you must to do can make all the differences between the feeling weighted out, down and overburdened or feeling confident, efficient and in control. One way to achieve this is to focus on what will be the result of doing what you should. And quite often, as in the example above, we actually want the result. So, if you focus your attention on the want, then you may find easier to take the action that will get you the result. If, of course, you don't see any advantage in the result of doing what you should do, then what is the point of doing it? Another way to control your agenda is to Substitute the word should with the word could. So instead of saying it to yourself, I should do so, and so, you say, I could do it. This implies a choice and your own autonomous control. The word could means that you can if you want to, but you don't have to. There is no correction. So you are nobody's victim, you are no manipulated, and you can choose what you wish to do, to have, or to be. A wise elderly lady I once knew said that she always divided the demands on her life in three categories: the things which could be done, the things which should be done, the things which must be done. Then she said that she tackled the C categories first and the B categories next, and lastly the things in A. Well, that is the one way of doing it, and it is certainly a good straightforward strategy for prioritizing your task. However, expanding this idea further into the arena of taking more control of your agenda, thereby controlling your stress, my suggestion is that you make three lists under the heading of above categories, but fill in each list with the things that could, should, and must be done to make you happier and more fulfilled. In other words, things for you, what you could do for you, what you should do for you, and what you must do for you, but only you, not for anyone or anything else. And then take them seriously. This is important because it is so often the cases that we do not take our own needs and wants seriously enough, or we relegate ourselves to the end of the list with unspoken proviso. If there is any time left, and usual there isn't, the reason of this, of course, lies is not prioritizing ourselves highly enough. Do right on writing these lists, as they will be very revealing. Whether you can act on them in ups to you. But if you do not find yourself putting any of into the actions, then at last ask yourself why. Giving yourself what do you want. I am not suggesting that you have become irresponsible and selfish doing only what you want to do. I am suggesting that in order to feel more in the control of your agenda, one of the most important steps to make room for enough of what do you want to do at a deep level, as well as what you should do, what you want to, often related to your true self, not your everyday personally. Your personality is conditioned to fit in with society and can mask your deeper self. It is a question of balance. We are taking about having enough of what you want, not everything you want. Creating something for what you want is not self integrant, it is a life enchanting. What I mean here is creating a space in your daily or weekly agenda for the things that are connected to your core value, to your deeper self, or to your creativity. These are the things that have meaning for you and brings you joy. If we spend too much of your limited time on tasks and activities that are not terribly meaningful to us in the terms of your value, we became stale and unenergized. Even today, women are conditioned to put aside their own desires and focus more on needs of the others. It is difficult to get a woman to say what they want, although they will more easily talk about their needs, by which they can justify getting what they want. Men, however, are usually much more comfortable with doing what they want. I always encourage my women to develop that more masculine drive within themselves that says, I want, and doesn't feel guilty about the wanting, but feels important enough to be able to have what it is want. Wanting is connected to the will and active principles. Needing has more of a passive quality, of course. They are both valid, but wants are often more fun, and fun is an essential ingredient in a successful life. Moreover, the deeper desire with us can create havoc in our life if they are never heeded. Depression is often due to the suppression's important wants, and disrepute behaviors in the children can frequently also be traced at the same causes previously, because some of our wants are important expressions of who we truly are. We have some exercises of rethinking your agenda. Flip though your diary or possibly last year and register your feelings as you look at what you have been doing. What would you like to see there more often? What would you like less of? What are you not putting the things you want in your schedule? Simply give yourself permission to create your agenda as you would like to be. Start this exercise slowly by putting into your diary just one thing each week that you want more. If maybe more time off from the mundane task, well, take it. You could code it in if it would make you feel less guilty. For example, put lunch or put your initial code or a code name for yourself. Example, morning as ME, and take yourself out to lunch. Treat this appointment in the same way as you would have a lunch date with one of the most important people in your life. For you can be one of the most important people in your life. In fact, you're the important person, and you're decided to be taken out to the lunch by you, or go for a walk in a park, or go to the movie or an art exhibition, or whatever you really want to do. Don't cancel it if something else important turns up. Be firm that you must honor the commitment to yourself. Treat yourself and awe and respect, and don't dare control. The other things can be fitted it in another time. After all, if you had a urgent appointment with your dentist and that other important event arose, you wouldn't automatically cancel the dentist, would you? Well, your wants are as important as toothaches. In fact, they are an ache of kind of you, and you must ease them. It is your responsibility. Once you get up used to this week treat, put 2 or 3 more special events for you in this week. You choose the code special events and write meeting with SE, or block or certain period that are just for you to use as you desire when the time arrives. You will actually do everything else so much more efficiently when having had a little more of what you really want for you. Will not be carrying so much resentment. Giving yourself time to the engage with whatever you really want will probably mean you will still get everything else done, because you will work at it with more ease and happiness. Reorganization priorities. A client had a very strong minded mother who, at 90 years of age, was still running her own hairdressing business. She comes from a working class background, was very religious, had a powerful sense of work ethics, and was highly suspicious of leisure. She accepted her son to think the same. For many years, he worked obviously at building up in his own business until he became exhausted from overwork, which was when he came to know to see me. He felt guilty if he took time off to enjoy himself, but it's managed to pre-assured him that taking holidays was not sinful. Rather, it re energized him to work more productivity on his return. Equally, taking time out of the fun and pleasure helped not hindering his work time. He has now recognized his agenda to give himself more time for himself and is a happier and a healthier man. His mother rings every Sundays, and if he not there for the first time, he asks what he has been doing. Happily, he no longer feels guilty about looking after his own needs and wants, but no wish to upset his mother. So he tell her he was at church, although he is actually out launching with friends and enjoying himself. This satisfies her, for she cannot change her ways, and it's stopped any quarrels or tension between them, which could be pointless at this stage of their relationship. In this respect, he actually looking after his mothers as well as himself. This may appear detectful, but you don't have to burden others with your guilty feelings about doing what you want to do. It would have meant that he was still playing the child's role, looking to his parents for approval or permission. As adults, we ultimately only have to answer ourselves. If you know you need to change your agenda in certain ways, then the only permission you need is your own. I am not encouraging individualence. It is more a matter of recognizing that no parents figure or fairy godmother out there is going to make sure that our lives are as we want them. We have to do it for ourselves and believe we can. The reason that most people don't create the lives that really wants is because they don't think they can. What I am saying is just give it a little try. Start with small things can happen and see how possible it is in. When we really believe that something can happen, it does not. I am not suggesting that you can become a millionaire overnight or a genius or anything fantastic. I simply saying you can dictate the content of your agenda more than you think. The more you do this, the more you will believe you can. You will strengthen your willpower and your belief in it. It takes a certain amount of self discipline to the action. This necessary concept and discipline may have negative association for you with school, teachers, and other authority figures. However, self discipline by its very nature eliminates the need for outside authorities. So it actually frees up. In fact, this can be one of the first step in offloading baggages. Rid yourself of other people authorities voices in your head and replace them just one your own. Offload unnecessary baggages. Often we carry on with old ways of behaving or old images of ourselves which is not appropriate any longer and these may be same of the things that have to go. You may have needed a certain adaptation at one time in order to cope, but you may have outgrown them. The old copying mechanism or belief and attitude can become handicapped when they have some past their use by dates. For example, a client of mine felt that she was not connecting properly with the people around her. She said her relationship were unfulfilled and unrewarding, and the people did not react to her as she wished they would. She asked me, "Is there something I am doing this is causing this problem? Do I need to change something in my behavior?" Just suggested that she lives with the question for a while and attempt to observe herself as objectively as possible. So she pondered on this. She watched herself carefully when with her friends and listened more accurately to what she was saying. She begins to realize that she was not actually presenting herself to the outside world in manner that reflects how she felt inside. She was making too many jokes and appearing to treat trivial issues that were fact extremely important to her. She was not taking herself seriously, and so others did not either. Through the work we did together, this discovered that she had always experienced difficulties believing in herself and in her rights to have a view and options, expecting to be ridiculed and dismissed. She was the youngest child with four elder brothers who had paid little attention to her during her childhood except to laugh at her when she played the fool. This became the way she gained her attention and glimmer admiration. Thus, she got into this habit of playing the court jesters and making the trivializing joke or dismissive statement first in order to protect herself from the rejection. She took on her joker role with the school friends as well as for it made her popular. But as time went by, it becomes unfulfilled to seen only as a clown. Once she has understood more clearly how this adapted behavior had originated, she began to feel a new sense of freedom and very talented started to express most honestly what she really thought or felt, courageously risking dismissal from others, although mostly it didn't come. Gradually, her confidence and the belief in herself grew. Also, her relationship felt more real and meaningful, and to her great surprise, she found people listening with the respect and, in fact, taking her seriously. She did not lose her sense of humor but stopped using it a barrier or a weapon to hold her sense of humor. She learned how to honor and reveal other side of her character as well. This demonstrates how something that works at one time in our life isn't necessarily successful forever and may need a rethinking. My client is now more relaxed and happy than ever before in her life, for she has been able to throw away a protective habit that was no longer protective her but impersonating her by cutting her off from the others. Take time to consider what you have outgrown, be they attitudes or material objects. Shedding these will free you up to feel more control. Offloading exercises which help you to offload yourself. Please ask yourself, what would give me just so much relief not to have a deal with anyone? What do I wish I never had to see again? What would I love to get rid of in myself? It is your life, and only you can decide what is good or bad for you. That includes the people you have around you. Something should remain with us for entire life if they are valuable to us for whatever reasons. Even if the other may consider that the clutter of junks are undesirable, it do not subscribe to the opinion that if you have not owned or used something in the past 12 months that it should be chunked out. That much too far times. That's much too formalitic. We are each unique and have to make the specific decision for yourself, honoring our own feelings. Even certain people that other considers undesirable may be in your life for a reason and may give you a valuable input, lessons, or simply an experience that you need for your personal growth and development. I think the best way to judge that this is at the feeling level. When we listen to your feelings that rarely lie in if certain things are making you feel uncomfortable or happy, whether they are possessions past, their use by date which are cluttering up your life, relationship that do not fulfill you, activities you no longer enjoy or traits in yourself that do not service your positively, then you may not want considering parting company from them and no longer giving them your valuable time and energy. Often, of course, we discover wonderful treasure in the process of clearing out our clutters, shifting the clutters from the treasures. A client had a treasured collections of letter for special people ranging over years of her life, which she said affirmated her life and gave her pleasure to read throughout the time to time. Especially if she fell down or depressed, she told me that the day she was looking through a box of letters which she thought were for her ex-husband but which she discovered were actually from her to him. He has obviously kept them, and when they were separated, the letters must be mistakenly put with her things, so they weren't with the wrong person. But did they? She was suffering from a rather low self esteem on the way she decided to look through this box. And she thought his letter might hold some clues about their relationship splits and where is she gone wrong. But as she read through the letter she has written to himself, he was shown a picture of something rather interesting, witty and bright, and she couldn't find the evidence or of her inadequately awfulness or badness that she feel convinced was the true. Instead, the truth about her okayness was in front of her. They were treasured indeed for her, although someone else might consider them clutter. So we have become clear and strong in ourselves about what constitutes clutters and doesn't help, what is supportive and necessary even though it may be taking up space. If I know the certain positions like books, clothes, or some of the objects I have been inherited make me feel so good and uplift me, then no one is going to persuade me I should get rid of them. Those things are my friends. They cheer me up on the regular basis, make me smile to myself, and therefore severe a total value purposes. However, if some of the things in your house, in your outer life, or even in your friends make you feel upset and stressed, you may need to decide to take a deep breath and say goodbye to them. Don't do this as a negative state of mind. Feel love whatever you are letting go. Wish it well, but affirm to yourself what you are moving on. Then feel the relief, feel the release. To the sum this up, rather simplify and neat little yardstick to apply to your agenda. Make space for your mind. One of the most important needs in our overfilled agenda is to find space and rest for your minds. It is far more things to use the mind than your body. The reasons children can be so active from the morning till dusk, which can be exhausted for adults. This is because they don't have so much stuff in their minds. As well as we all know, one of the today's big problem is excessive information. There is so much to absorb and so many new things coming to us every day that it is hard not to feel overwhelmed mentally. Even though much of it may be very exciting and interesting, too much of anything, no matter how good, just adds up to the overload. News waves and innovation incessantly pouring out at us from various sources is extremely demanding of our mental resources. No wonder people's nervous systems are on overdrive. Mental strains and jittery nervous results from being focused too much on the outer world, the world of sense impressions. It is fascinating to the mind to be constantly focused outwards. The brain need to be focused inwards as well, in a rhythmical and in a balanced way. We have imaginations and memory, and if we don't use them sufficiently, most people do not spend enough time looking inwards, reflecting on the things, thinking, imagining. This is why we need to sleep regularly to switch off from the outside world. Even during the waking day, we still need to rest and should have a balance of mind. It is for this reason the meditation has been practiced in India and much of the eastern countries. It gives a balance to the sense oriented impression, putting the mind into another mode with the brain waves often closed down, which can be as refreshing as a night's sleep. This one of the ancient wisdom from which we can learn much. One really inspiring inward focused activity I recommend is to imagine your life as you would really like to be. Create an inner pictures of different aspects of your life. For example, where you like to be live and your ideal house, your ideal interior, then see yourself and you would most like to be interacting with the friends and family. Imagine everything as clearly as completely as you can. Or if you wish to change your job or career, picture yourself working in the job career would like instead of pictures itself going for the interview for that job. If you do not have a vision for what you would like to create in your outer life, then it is very difficult to make it outcome true. But when we create a clear picture of what we are aiming for, it is amazing how much easier it begins to achieve it. So that this could be the way for you to begin spending more time on their inner dimension. As you practice the visualization techniques I give you throughout the book, you will begin to create your own inner landscape of wonderful and soothing places you can go to whenever the outer world feels too stressful and dreaming of overwhelming. Finding a sense of a peace through a visualization. When you have a little time, visualize just one object or a symbol that calms you. Lighten a lighted candle, a cross, a rainbow, a gently flowering river, a tree, or a white rose. By wearing the inner picture, you are giving yourself a sort of inner workout and strengthening your ability to focus your mind on whatever you decide. Resting the mind. A friend of mine who is highly empowered television producer always take a least 20 minutes at a lunchtime to shut herself away and be quiet. Her assistants are instructed not to disturb her, just as if she were in a important meeting. Of course, she is in an important meeting with herself. She lies on the floor of her office and practices some relaxation techniques and then take herself on a guided daydream to be a beautiful place in the countryside. When she re-emerges, she is ready to deal with the second half of the day. She is refreshed and had realized herself. It is vitally important to rest the nervous system. You will have greater energy and stamina for taking regular mind breaks rather than from those who regularly have a coffee breaks. Your minds need a rest for too much stimulating sensory inputs. If you think about it, what is actually goes to the sleep when you sleep? Is it your heart or your liver or your kidney? No, all of our organs continue to work when we are asleep. It is the nervous system that sleep that cut off from the world. This is absolutely essential if you are to function rationally and effectively during the day. We all know it, feel not to have enough sleep, you cannot think straight. The mind need a rest from sense impressions transmitted through the nervous system, and in sleep we are protected from our outer sense impressions. This is really the main purpose of sleep. It is like turning off the computer. The more help and the rest we need the minds and the nervous system, not just by switching off in the sleep at night, but by switching inwards from time to time during our daytime. The better the mind will work when we return to focus on the outside world. Some exercises for reaffirming your rights to clear your mind. Practice saying to yourself, just because it's out there, it doesn't mean it has to be in here. That's it. In your mind and nervous system. Avoid cluttering up the internal you. Einstein is reported to have said that he has never attempted to remember people's telephonic number. He maintained that they were written down somewhere else and he never cluttered his mind with anything unnecessarily. You may think that memorizing certain phone numbers is necessary, but the practices of a genius should not be ignored. So, I would advise that you simply apply the general principles in the way that it is appropriate for you. Taking the advice of a people who are successful is always sensible life management. Intimate successful behaviors. Watching and learning from a successful people or people you admire is always marvelous way to improve your performances in the life. If someone is functioning in a stressed manner and copying well with life demands, then try to observe very carefully how they do it, how they structure this their time, how they prioritize their task, how they deal with others, and so on. As a children, we learn everything by imitating, by copying the people around us. And I see no shame in continuing to do this throughout adult life. There will be always be someone ahead of us who have cracked the code to certain of the life riddles and from whom we can learn. Imitations to the highest form of flattery. The general exercises to be practiced. Take some time to observe someone you admire attentively. What is it they are doing that we are not? Instead of wasting energy envying someone else, use your energy to consider what it is that make them so more successful and copy them. This is another aspect of uploading your burdens, or rather transforming your burdens into their polar opposite. So don't envy but emulate. Don't criticize yourself. However, don't put yourself down by admiring someone else too much. A wonderful quote sent to me by a friend recently sums up this. We become whole by withdrawing our projections and owning our own talents and skills. I think this is such a lovely twist on the usual conventions of projections, which is generally seen as being those negative, dark parts of ourselves that we do not acknowledge, but ascribe to the others. The thought that we have admire in someone else could be our own unseen talents, skills, or qualities is delightfully uplifted and not usually considered. I have been always believes this is what happens in hero worship. We give away our own hero when we admire someone too much. When we adopt pop stars, film star, or a sports hero, we neglect to express the star within ourselves. Carl Jung, in fact, stated many years ago that whatever we admire in another, we possess within ourselves. For if we did not contain the certain particular quality or ability, he said, we are not able to recognize it in someone else. So, whatever you admire about somebody, just start to develop that potential in yourself. Is there lying dormant or just escaping your notice? Let go of a negative self task. Answer it back. You don't have to take critical remarks from anybody, not even yourself. I have voiced inside that I call crap. It crap on about this and that not being right. And I just tell it in a most loving way, of course, to shut up. Sometimes I conserve a little more intelligently within it, explaining very patiently that things are not always perfect and that I certainly am not. Moreover, I should not expect it to be perfect, for nobody is. And I personally think we should all allow each others a new frailties and inadequacies. That's how I keep this inner critics at a distance. I just don't buy everything it comes up with. We have to take responsibility for not allowing our inner crisis to underestimate us, so that we cannot get on with the task of becoming all that we are intended to be. And inspiring saying that I have pinned up in my hallway from Roosevelt's is, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. This is exactly right, not even you yourself. So withhold your consent. Create clear boundaries. One another very important aspects of taking more control of our agendas and our life is to be clear about our boundaries. It is vital to set limits and then be firm about sticking to them. It stops us feeling blown about all over the place or subjects to the other people agendas. It is vitally important to rest the nervous system. You will have greater energy and stamina for taking regular mind breaks rather than from those who regularly have a coffee breaks. Your minds need a rest for too much stimulating sensory inputs. If you think about it, what is actually goes to the sleep when you sleep? Is it your heart or your liver or your kidney? No, all of our organs continue to work when we are asleep. It is the nervous system that sleep that cut off from the world. This is absolutely essential if you are to function rationally and effectively during the day. We all know it, feel not to have enough sleep, you cannot think straight. The mind need a rest from sense impressions transmitted through the nervous system, and in sleep we are protected from our outer sense impressions. This is really the main purpose of sleep. It is like turning off the computer. The more help and the rest we need the minds and the nervous system, not just by switching off in the sleep at night, but by switching inwards from time to time during our daytime. The better the mind will work when we return to focus on the outside world. Some exercises for reaffirming your rights to clear your mind. Practice saying to yourself, just because it's out there, it doesn't mean it has to be in here. That's it. In your mind and nervous system. Avoid cluttering up the internal you. Einstein is reported to have said that he has never attempted to remember people's telephonic number. He maintained that they were written down somewhere else and he never cluttered his mind with anything unnecessarily. You may think that memorizing certain phone numbers is necessary, but the practices of a genius should not be ignored. So, I would advise that you simply apply the general principles in the way that it is appropriate for you. Taking the advice of a people who are successful is always sensible life managements. Intimate successful behaviors. Watching and learning from a successful people or people you admire is always marvelous way to improve your performances in the life. If someone is functioning in a stress manner and copying well with life demands, then try to observe very carefully how they do it, how they structure this their time, how they prioritize their task, how they deal with others, and so on. As a children, we learn everything by imitating, by copying the people around us. And I see no shame in continuing to do this throughout adult life. There will be always be someone's ahead of us who have cracked the code to certain of the life riddles and from whom we can learn. Imitations to the highest form of flattery. The general exercises to be practiced. Take some time to observe someone you admire attentively. What is it they are doing that we are not? Instead of wasting energy envying someone else, use your energy to consider what it is that make them so more successful and copy them. This is another aspect of uploading your burdens, or rather transforming your burdens into their polar opposite. So don't envy but emulate. Don't criticize yourself. However, don't put yourself down by admiring someone else too much. A wonderful quote sent to me by a friend recently sums up this. We become whole by withdrawing our projections and owning our own talents and skills. I think this is such a lovely twist on the usual conventions of projections, which is generally seen as being those negative, dark parts of ourselves that we do not acknowledge, but ascribe to the others. The thought that we have admire in someone else could be our own unseen talents, skills, or qualities is delightfully uplifted and not usually considered. I have been always believes this is what happens in hero worship. We give away our own hero when we admire someone too much. When we adopt pop stars, film star, or a sports hero, we neglect to express the star within ourselves. Carl Jung, in fact, stated many years ago that whatever we admire in another, we possess within ourselves. For if we did not contain the certain particular quality or ability, he said, we are not able to recognize it in someone else. So, whatever you admire about somebody, just start to develop that potential in yourself. Is there lying dormant or just escaping your notice? Let go of a negative self task. Answer it back. You don't have to take critical remarks from anybody, not even yourself. I have voiced inside that I call crap. It crap on about this and that not being right. And I just tell it in a most loving way, of course, to shut up. Sometimes I conserve a little more intelligently within it, explaining very patiently that things are not always perfect and that I certainly am not. Moreover, I should not expect it to be perfect, for nobody is. And I personally think we should all allow each others a new frailties and inadequacies. That's how I keep this inner critics at a distance. I just don't buy everything it comes up with. We have to take responsibility for not allowing our inner crisis to underestimate us, so that we cannot get on with the task of becoming all that we are intended to be. And inspiring saying that I have pinned up in my hallway from Roosevelt's is, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. This is exactly right, not even you yourself. So withhold your consent. Create clear boundaries. One another very important aspects of taking more control of our agendas and our life is to be clear about our boundaries. It is vital to set limits and then be firm about sticking to them. It stops us feeling blown about all over the place or subjects to the other people agendas.